He was a native of Grand Island, New York, and the only soldier from the 325th Glider Infantry Regiment and the 82nd Airborne Division, of which the regiment was a part, to receive the Medal of Honor during the Second World War for action during the Normandy Campaign. His name was Charles DeGlopper, and today I'm going to tell his story right here on The Ultimate Sacrifice. Hello and welcome to the show. My name is Louis Marsh. I'm senior pastor of River Church and a passionate lover of history and a lover of the U.S. military. My father served in the Pacific during World War II in the Marine Corps. So let's jump into this story today. DeGlopper was born on November 30th, 1921, to Mary Nealance DeGlopper and Charles Leonard DeGlopper. His family home was located at 2176 Fix Road on Grand Island, New York, and he attended school number 5 on Baseline and Bush Roads in Grand Island. In June of 1941, he graduated from Tonawanda High School before entering the Army in November of 1942. After training at Camp Croft in South Carolina, he was sent overseas in April of 1943 and served with the 82nd Airborne Division and saw combat in North Africa and Sicily, parts of Italy, and finally, of course, in France. In the late evening of June 6, 1944, the 82nd Airborne Glider troops began to arrive in France, staged from the Aldermaston airfield in England, each involving hundreds of CG-4 Waco and airspeed Horsa gliders, and managed in code-named phrases, denoted this way: Mission Keokuk, Mission Elmira, and the final 2 glider landings were scheduled for June 7, 1944 in the morning, were called Missions Galveston and Hackensack, which brought in the 325th Glider Infantry Regiment. Mission Galveston arrived in 2 serials of 50 gliders each, and while the first had been something of a disastrous landing, the second fared slightly better, but less than 50% of their equipment was recoverable. That's not good. Mission Hackensack, the last to arrive, brought in the remaining 1,300 glidermen of the 325th Glider Infantry Regiment and their equipment. Also arriving in 2 serials, the gliders began landing on the 7th at 9 in the morning in broad daylight, and despite the apparent destruction on the ground, the operation was a great success, with most of the troops and nearly all of their equipment getting delivered to the battlefield. Nearly 90% of the 325th Glider Infantry Regiment men were assembled within a few hours of landing and moved toward Chez Dupont. Leading the troops, Regimental Commander Colonel Harry Lewis was ordered to make a crossing of the Le Merdert River and help attack La Ferraille Bridge. As always, these French pronunciations are my best guess. Sorry to everyone from France or everyone who knows French for my lack of doing so, but I'm doing the best I can. Colonel Lewis sent his 1st Battalion to wade across under the cover of darkness. Their objective was to attack the force defending the bridge. Themselves under attack, C Company, 1st Battalion, was cut off from the rest of the battalion, and despite himself coming under increased fire, Private First Class Charles DeGlopper stood up and began to fire his Browning automatic rifle at the attacking Germans in an attempt to suppress their fire and relieve the battalion. Although wounded, PFC DeGlopper continued to stand and fire, and when hit yet again, he still fired, although now he was kneeling and bleeding profusely. Meanwhile, as the Germans were distracted and occupied with PFC's DeGlopper's automatic fire, the remainder of C Company was able to break off and head for Lafayette and join the rest of the battalion. For his self-sacrificial actions, Private First Class Charles DeGlopper was posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor on February 28, 1946. As I said, he's the only member of the 82nd Airborne so honored in Normandy. The President of the United States, in the name of the Congress, takes pleasure in presenting the Medal of Honor to Private First Class Charles DeGlopper, United States Army, for service as set forth in the following citation, quote, "He was a member of Company C, 325th Glider Infantry, on the 9th of June 1944, advancing with the forward platoon to secure a bridgehead across the Meurthe River in France. At dawn, the platoon had penetrated an outer line of machine guns and riflemen, but in so doing had become cut off from the rest of the company. Vastly superior forces began a decimation of the stricken unit and put in motion a flanking maneuver which would have completely exposed the American platoon in a shallow roadside ditch where it had taken cover. Detecting this danger, PFC DeGlopper volunteered to support his comrades by fire from his automatic rifle while they were attempting a withdrawal through the hedgerow 40 yards to their rear. Scorning a concentration of enemy automatic weapons and rifle fire, he walked from the ditch onto the road in full view of the Germans and sprayed the hostile positions with assault fire. He was wounded, but he continued firing. Struck again, he started to fall, and yet his grim determination and valiant fighting spirit could not be broken. Kneeling in the roadway, weakened by his grievous wounds, he leveled his heavy weapon against the enemy and fired burst after burst after burst until killed outright. He did not die in vain. The citation goes on to say, quote, he was successful in drawing the enemy action away from his fellow soldiers who continued to fight for a more advantageous position and established the first bridgehead over the river. In the area where he made his intrepid stand, his comrades later found the ground strewn with dead Germans and many machine guns and automatic weapons which he had knocked out of action. PFC DeGlopper's valiant sacrifice and unflinching heroism while facing insurmountable odds were in great measure responsible for a highly important tactical victory in the Normandy Campaign. Now, his memory has lived on in many different ways. In December 3rd, 1947, U.S. Army Transport Elgin Victory was renamed the PFC Charles N. DeGlopper at the Brooklyn Army Base in Brooklyn, New York. Following the ceremony, the ship left for Bremerhaven, Germany, with arrival expected on December 17, 1947. On April 5th of 1948, there was a road at Fort Bragg, North Carolina that was named for Charles N. DeGlopper. On July 7th, 1948, DeGlopper's body was returned from France to the Buffalo Central Terminal in Buffalo, New York. It traveled 6 miles from the terminal to the Connecticut Street Armory by Cason. On the 8th and the 9th of July, 1948, DeGlopper's body, along with others, lied in state at the Connecticut Street Armory. And on the 9th of July, 1948, an evening wake is held in the family home on Fix Road. Then on July 10th, 1948, the funeral took place from the family home. Service was read by Reverend J. Franklin Beck, Trinity Evangelical United Brethren Church. Charles N. DeGlopper was buried in the Maple Grove Cemetery, Whitehaven Road, Grand Island. Actually, it's on Stony Point. Military rites conducted by the Grand Island Post, 1346 of the American Legion. And in 2014, the Fort Bragg Air Assault School, formerly renamed the DeGlopper Air Assault School after Charles DeGlopper. Now, he has also made an impact in our culture. The novel March Up Country contains a fictional spaceship, the Charles DeGlopper, in honor of Charles DeGlopper, the physical training field, and the barracks of the 1st and 2nd Battalions of the 325th Airborne Infantry Regiment, the modern-day descendants of the Glider Infantry Regiment, is named DeGlopper Field, and Charles DeGlopper's sacrifice is also mentioned in the D-Day episode of the TV documentary Victory Road. It aired in 2011 and was narrated by historian Elwood von Siebold. And finally, I discovered the DeGlopperMemorial.org. I'll put that up on the screen for you. This is something his family has put together, all kinds of information about him that you should definitely go and check out. That's the DeGlopperMemorial.org. And that's going to do it for today. What a man. What a soldier. What an amazing person. We could all be a lot better if we strove to be a little bit more like Charles DeGlopper. Till next week, this is Louis Marsh saying thanks so much for being there. If you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up. a like, and please consider subscribing. We're a brand new channel, and we need subscribers. Till next week, so long.